Hi, my name is Chris, and this video is called No Free Will. In this video, I'd like to discuss a controversial subject, which is the idea of free will, and I'd like to make the assertion that there is no free will. I'll discuss why I believe this to be true and explain the advantages of believing this over believing in free will. To begin with, we see people making bad decisions every day. People do things that make their lives much worse, such as drunk driving, stealing, cheating on their spouses, and so forth. Why do people make these bad decisions? In our mind, we take that person back to that moment in time that they made the bad decision, and we chastise them for making it. We insist that in that moment of time, the person had the ability to make the right decision, and they simply chose not to. But in reality, our moments in time just happen, and they are part of a stream of events in consciousness. Every moment in time in our life is the result of our past. It's entirely tied to and dependent on our past. We may consider ourselves to be free in relationships to others or society or so forth, but we are never and can never be free from ourselves. We're a product of our past. Every moment in time we are being influenced by external experiences, or seemingly external experiences such as dreams, or partially external and partially internal experiences such as our fantasy life. Here's a way of thinking about it. In every moment of time, you have your entire past history stretched out behind you. You have your identity, your way of thinking, which are all products of your past. In a particular moment of time, if we zero in on that moment, we can see that you're reacting to a particular situation, which is a combination of external experiences and internal experiences. You could be dreaming, or you could be conscious and awake and having an experience. You could be having a particular stream of thoughts and feelings in combination with external experiences. You could be more focused on your internal experience or more focused on your external experience. But whatever the case may be, everything that you're doing is a product of your past in terms of how you react is a result of your past experiences, and you're constantly reacting. Everything you do is a reaction based on your past experiences, coming into contact with external experiences. This is obviously a massive oversimplification, but the important point is that at no point do we ever do anything but react to our life. We never truly act, we only react, because our reactions are expressed as different desires and feelings. If we're stressed out at work, for example, and we come home and want to go out and have a drink, we cannot separate that stressed out feeling and the desire to go out and have a drink. The desire is a real one, but it's also dependent on something else. In this case, it's a reaction to our feelings of stress, which we've been accumulating from a week at work. We're never free because we never stop reacting to what we are experiencing, both internally and externally. Although we enjoy the illusion of free will, if we believe that we have actual free will, then we condemn both ourselves and others for mistakes that we make or they make. When in fact, in each moment that we've made a decision or they have made a decision, it's really the only reaction that we're capable of. Hindsight really is 20/20, but in the moment we're acting out of a feeling and a thought, and we do the only thing that we're really capable of doing. Although we tend to place upon others or project upon others our own capabilities, our thinking, and the ways in which we handle stress and so forth, by projecting our own identities onto others, we're actually creating a lie, because the other person is not us and does not think the way we do or react the way we do. They may not have the same intelligence or the same internal resources. Their minds may be suffering from confusion or They could be under the influence of drugs or alcohol, or whatever the case may be. They are not us. And the fiction is that we project upon other people the thought of who we are and say that they have failed because they didn't act the way we acted, when in fact they didn't have the capability to act the way we acted. The science fiction device of multiple futures coming out of a single set of choices really makes no sense. An individual who makes decision A at one moment could also make decision B at the same moment in a science fiction world. But in reality, these two individuals would have to be different, otherwise they would have made the same choice. It just stands to reason. The bottom line is that we are not free and we do not possess free will. Rather, we are experiencing a stream of consciousness which is influenced by but not controlled entirely by our conscious mind. In the absence of free will, we're finally free to stop blaming ourselves and others for mistakes. We can recognize that each person does the best that they can in each moment, regardless of whether or not in our own particular throne of judgment which we happen to be sitting in, we look at that moment and agree. In fact, the only thing that we can do in every moment is the one thing we do in every moment. We only do what we are capable of doing. And we only are capable of doing one thing in every moment. But people need a scapegoat. They need someone to hate and something to blame, even if it is themselves half the time. But the price you pay for blame is hatred, anger, and guilt. In these states of mind, you suffer and are caught up in a lie that drags you down. Sooner or later, you will encounter the impossible situation, and you'll be faced with the logical end to your belief system, the belief in free will. The impossible situation is where you end up doing your very best, trying 100% for a long, long time, and then failing entirely. When this happens on a large enough scale, you can have a realization that guilt doesn't really take into account that each person has limits. It has no realism in the form of compassionate awareness. It blames constantly and endlessly. Guilt will ultimately show you its true nature, which is hatred. It will show you that you cannot win, even if you try hard for decades sometimes. Often people do win or succeed or get by. But in the end, somewhere, somehow, some situations will ultimately lead to catastrophic failure. And guilt doesn't care, because in its coldness and hatred for you, it'll watch you suffer or maybe even die and feel nothing for you at all. Free will is the basis for all bias, all hatred, all bigotry, and all rage. It is the source of all the violence that comes out of anger, hatred, and bias. Free will leads to hell on earth, because blame is a two-edged sword. Your capacity to blame others is always the same as your capacity to hate yourself and to be burdened with the pain of guilt. People who do not feel guilt consciously experience it subconsciously. This philosophy of not believing in free will is not a ticket to being able to do whatever you want with the excuse that you're not accountable for your actions, because you're still going to suffer guilt and you're going to suffer from the consequences of your actions. But a person who doesn't believe in free will is no less free than a person who does, but they also have the additional freedom of being free from blame, hatred, and guilt, and they can begin the long journey of personal transformation to becoming entirely free of all of those things over a long period of time. A person who puts all their effort into being good can reach a point of burnout where they simply cannot continue. If goodness is killing you, then it's not good anymore. Such a person is ready to make a radical change and to release guilt and accept free will as a false idea. When this happens, they can live free from guilt and hatred and accept themselves and life as it presents itself more and more, with more freedom and flexibility. It's one thing to talk about a guiltless and hate-free life, and another thing to actually live it. That's a more prolonged and complex journey. But to start that journey, you begin by making the philosophical choice and understanding that free will is not real. I hope that you can start there today. Thanks and peace. Chris.